Hey everyone, welcome to this edition of Stream On. I'm Jim Williams, your host, and in theaters worldwide and certainly in the United States, selected theaters and video on demand, The Dry opens today. Now, The Dry, for those of you, my dear friends, you all know how much I'm a big sucker for a whodunit and a bit of a thriller mystery. Well, this is it, folks. This is the one for the summer. The Dry is a sleeper, but it's amazing. It stars Genevieve O'Reilly, who we all know and love from her Star Wars days, as well as Eric Bana. Now, The Dry starts out with Aaron Falk, who's played by Eric Bana, who's a police detective from Melbourne. He goes to attend his friend's funeral in the drought-stricken outback of Australia. And he finds out that there might just be something to investigate. How did his friend die? How did all of this come about? Also, there's a parallel to the death of a teenage girl that happened decades ago. So, my friends, we get not one, but two mysteries. One in the present and one in the past. And Aaron Falk, as I said before, who plays the detective, is reunited with his dear longtime friend, Gretchen, played by Genevieve O'Reilly. And these two lifelong friends, and one time, love interest perhaps, we'll find out. No spoilers there. Go forth to try to solve these mysteries. And today our guest is none other than Genevieve O'Reilly, one of the stars of The Dry. And Genevieve, outstanding film. We highly recommend everybody sees it. You have to be excited about the opening of the movie worldwide today. Let's talk about The Dry.
Yeah, well, this is such a special project to me, and it's one of the special ones. I'm deeply proud of it, of all the people who worked on it. I've really became close with the cast and crew. We were out in Australia filming it. It's hard to know when things actually happened because everything now just seems to be pre-COVID and post-COVID. But I think it was about a year and a half ago now that we filmed it in country Victoria in Australia.
Right.
And it's really it's a great film based on Jane Harper's book, The Dry. It was a huge bestseller of a novel. But it's essentially about Aaron Falk, who's played brilliantly by Eric Bana, who goes back to the town that he grew up in, this country Victoria town, because his friend has died, and perhaps there's murder, perhaps there's suicide. But he goes back as a policeman to investigate it. But what we learn through watching it is that there is a double mystery, really, a dual mystery. There's a mystery in the present and there's a mystery in the past. So it's a really compelling, taut, tense mystery thriller with Eric Bana at its heart. I mean, what's not to like?
Well, in watching it, okay, I've got to say from my perspective, it was one of those things where in the first 5 to 7 minutes, you were hooked. I mean, you went in and you said, you know what? I'm not sure where this is going, but I definitely want to take the ride.
Yeah, I love that you felt that. I felt that too. I think Rob Connolly, our director, just uses that landscape and and it just draws you right in, doesn't it? Like those big, wide Australian scenic shots, and it's so compelling. So I'm thrilled you got that.
It's funny, one of the brilliant things about shooting in Australia is that it the areas, and specifically in this one that you're talking about, you almost get a secondary character out of the out of the landscape that you were just talking about. I mean, it's the town, that whole vibe that you get. I mean, that draws you in as well.
I agree. I think one of the most potent characters within the piece is the landscape. Mm-hmm. And, I remember talking when I first talked to Rob about this film and perhaps the opportunity of me doing it, he spoke about the landscape and the cinematic vision he had to create an omnipresent landscape that has, in a way that Australian cinema can do, it has a romanticism and a threat at the same time.
It's funny, with the movie, as you said, you've got dual mysteries, right? And but the way it's handled, it's not confusing, and I mean that in a good way, because sometimes when people do that, where you've got this kind of one thing going at one time, it's difficult to keep track of them. But that's not the case here. It's so well written and so well acted by you and your wonderful castmates that you really are able to hold the strand on both of them at one time.
That's so great for you to say that. I completely agree with you. I also think, the dual mysteries are both very present in Jane's book as well, and so much so that when she flashes back in the book, it goes to italics. So you're very clear when the past is and when the present. Right. And so I have to give a shout out to our director, Rob, our cinematographer, but also our editors, who created almost the italics within cinema form. Do you know what I mean? Like the colors, the tones, the music. They were so clever, so that you're right, when it flicks between the past and the present, as a viewer, I feel like you go confidently with it.
Well, and, to your point about trying to be true to the book, right? Recently I've had a couple of folks who've interviewed a couple of folks who had their novels turned into either TV shows or into movies. And the first thing they say when they sign, on is, "Oh my God, I hope they come close to what the book is." And in this particular case, as you just said, what the directors and the entire creative force behind the movie did was they were able to match the book and translate it in a film version that didn't lose anything. And that's rare.
Which is not easy to do, right?
No.
Yeah. And I know Rob and Eric and the other producers were very keen to really try and do that, to almost elevate the novel, to keep the novel, keep the essence of it, and then even elevate it cinematically, which I think they really, really achieved. I know Jane Harper, the author of The Dry, was also involved. I met her. She was out on set, and there's a couple of scenes that her and I think some of her family are supporting artists in, and so it was so communal. It was really special like that, and I think our director has an energy. Rob Connolly has an energy that invites that. He has such a generous, warm, open energy about him that I think in someone else's hands it might have been different.
Yeah. A real quick story with regards to authors who were loath to have their stories turned into film. Jerzy Kosinski was famous for not wanting any of his books to ever appear in a film or TV or anything. And the late Peter Sellers desperately wanted to make the film Being There. And Jerzy Kosinski, was against it. But Peter Sellers knew that Jerzy Kosinski watched this one local television show in New York. So Sellers, who would never have been on the show for any other reason, went on, and when Joe Franklin asked him, what is it that you haven't done that you'd love to do? He goes, I'd love to play the part of Chauncey Gardner in the in Being There. And
Being There.
Right. And so Jerzy Kosinski calls, him up and says, do you think you can pull this off? And he goes, yeah. And so, the movie was made.
Oh my goodness, what a wonderful story.
So there's, of course, of an actor, right, who desperately wanted something and did it. Now, in your case with this beautiful, film, this was different. You actually had the person, as you said, involved in it, and that certainly, I'm sure, helped. But I've got to say that staying true to the book in this particular case was, you're spot on in it, and you've got a wonderful cast, and really is something that I think that a lot of people are going to be very excited about.
I hope so. I think it's a really wonderful Australian, and it feels very truthfully Australian, a really true Australian story with a very Australian, recognizably Australian characters. I love that each of the characters within the story are complicated, but I feel like they're not judged. I feel like it's such a beautiful farming community where they live. I love that within the storytelling there was no judgment of all those characters within that town. And Falk, played by Eric, comes in, and you genuinely meet all those people. I think it's a great story, really well told, and I think
it's also one where it's very wonderfully layered, right? There's so many little, nuggets in the film and characters in the film that you gravitate to, and that they've got their own little idiosyncrasies, and you're sitting there going, well, this is kind of cool. This person's really kind of, a character here. And so there's a lot of things to like, and a lot of little nuggets in the film that, along the way makes the ride even more exciting and fun.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Well, one other quick thing with regard to the, I've gotten, one of the great things now with streaming, right, is the world is much closer together. And I've seen a lot of Australian TV shows and films. The quality of content coming from out of Australia is on par with just about any other place in the world. I really think they do a magnificent job of storytelling on their television programming and in film.
Yeah, I think that's culturally very Australian. Storytelling is, I feel it's very rooted in the Australian character and in the Australian overt consciousness. Like, people will sit around, and pub culture is very respect is a big thing, and barbecue culture. So people sitting around outside telling a good yarn, as they say in Australia. And I feel like there are such brilliant storytellers there, wonderful novelists, extraordinary actors, musicians. It's a beautiful country. I'm in London at the moment, and I'm missing it. I'm missing getting back there to see, my family, and to share in that Australiana that you get when you're there, and obviously through their cultural content, which you're talking about.
Okay, now let's. It's time for what I like to call shameless plugs. So feel comfortable here, okay? And so I said it, not you. So let us know. The film comes out on the 21st, and just let us know why you think we should watch it.
I think The Dry is a bloody good story.
There you go. What more do you want, right?
I think it's really well told, and it's, yeah.
It is a bloody good story. There's no question about that. Now, I would be remiss, and I would probably be beaten down if I didn't at least bring up the fact that later, not soon, but later, that you're going to be involved in, something that you're quite familiar with, and that, of course, is the Star Wars group, and we've got coming up on Disney Plus in the not too distant future, Andor, and I'm sure you're excited about that coming out as well.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited for fans, and also, in truth, I'm thrilled to be a part of it again, and we're filming it at the moment, and I'm loving it. And it's really exciting, and they're really reaching for something, and I'm so excited to be a part of it, and I can't wait to see how they put it all together.
Well, I got to tell you that Disney Plus is crushing it with Mandalorian, and
oh yeah,
it is. They finished the second season. My wife is obsessed. Since this will happen before her birthday, I'm seriously considering getting her a baby Yoda. It's just one of those things. But okay, The Dry, got to see that film. And coming up, we'll be looking for Andor, which is, as they say, I'm sure it's going to crush it when it gets to Disney Plus.
I think it will.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Genevieve. We appreciate it. Promise you'll come back and talk to us a little bit more about Andor when that gets closer.
Oh, I would love to. And thank you so much for having me.
Special thanks to Genevieve O'Reilly, whose movie The Dry opens up worldwide today and can be found on demand. So check it out. We highly recommend The Dry. All the information on the movie is in our show box below. We'll be back with more of Stream On right after this from BMW, the ultimate driving machine.
At BMW, we know leaving the road wasn't easy, but anticipating our return taught us to appreciate every drive. The exhilaration of the ultimate adventure. Moments spent with your favorite co-pilots. And the freedom to explore just because. Our time to rejoin the road is finally here.
Welcome back, everybody. Now, if you're not one of the over 75,000 people worldwide who've taken the time to subscribe and be part of our party, well, first of all, shame on you. You know better than that. Second of all, it's free. Who doesn't like free? You can find us at the Apple Podcast Store. Same thing over at Google Play. You can find us at Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, as well as iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Pandora here in the U.S., and globally on YouTube. Now, if you can't seem to find us there, don't worry. You've got an assistant device, like Alexa or Siri or Google. Just ask them to please play the latest edition of Stream On with Jim Williams, and guess what? They'll do it for you. That's pretty cool, huh? Yeah, I think so too. Now, if you still can't find us, one last way of doing it, pull out the old Google machine. Type in Stream On with Jim Williams. Hit the favorite button or subscribe button. And each week you're going to get a brand new edition of the podcast sent directly to your phone, your tablet, or hopefully to both. So please, we beg of you, come on, join the party, have fun. We have some really cool things that we have going on, and we would like to include you, okay? So go out and do that today. Thank you so much. Now, speaking of feedback from the group, you 75,000 wonderful human beings, from Sweden to Australia, you've been hitting me up because, we talk about what are you watching. And so we decided last week to give us some of the things that you're watching, some of the things you're binging, okay? And surprisingly, or not so much so, we saw some of them which are new, which of course would be, Mandalorian, which of course is Disney Plus, as is WandaVision and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, all brand new stuff over Disney. The HBO Max content, which is phenomenal, and plenty of Netflix stuff. But I also saw that pretty much on everybody's list were 4 shows. Now, some of them I was a little surprised because they're older, but they're just coming to the party. So on 85% of the social media posts that you guys sent me was The Queen's Gambit. Now, during the pandemic, you guys know, we did a screening of each one of the Queen's Gambit episodes, and they were great. I mean, no, believe me, love the show. And but you guys love binging it, and so if you haven't binged it, over on Netflix, check out The Queen's Gambit. Many of you came up with Mrs. Maisel. Now, Mrs. Maisel, again, phenomenal. We've had Tony Shalhoub with us, who plays Mrs. Maisel's, father. It's a phenomenal show, fun program. But it's over on Amazon Prime. A lot of people are getting a little late to that party, but hey, better late than never, right? So checking out Mrs. Maisel. Lastly, and believe me, there's hundreds we could talk about, but one of the ones that I found extremely unique was Billions. Now, Billions they've been done Billions on Showtime for quite a while now. But people talk about it being a very bingeable show, and to be honest, it is a very bingeable show. So, those are just a few. I know that you guys have more. Please hit me up. All the information's on social media in our show box below. But it's always good to get feedback from the fans out there. Now, here in the United States, a big deal happened this week, and that is AT&T, which is the parent company of Time Warner, merged with the Discovery Networks. Now, it's a little complex, but what it does do is it makes, if the Federal Communications Commission and other governmental agencies that have to approve mergers, if they do approve the merger between AT&T and Discovery, that will put them on somewhat equal footing with the Netflixes of the world and of course Amazon and those major players. There's a lot of content between Time Warner and of course the folks over at Discovery, and it is a little unique because both HBO Plus and Discovery Plus are just blowing up with regard to subscribership. So the two apps that are widely used as HBO Plus, and which is a Time Warner owned company, and Discovery Plus, which obviously is a Discovery owned property. Both of them are doing quite well. So the fact that they merge and go together, as I say, it puts them in the categories of Netflix and Disney and Amazon. So keep a lookout for what's going on there. Don't look for anything to happen anytime soon, because my guess is it's going to be early 2021 before anything happens there. Okay, but you need to know. All right. So again, big news this week. That is AT&T and Discovery Networks talking merger. Let's talk about what we're going to watch this week if you get a chance to go out and see a film. because now with some relaxation here and in being able to go to movies again, by all means check out our guest Genevieve O'Reilly's new thriller, The Dry. Highly recommend it. Saw the film, and I'm sure you're going to like it. So do me a favor, go out and see The Dry or catch it on demand, and let me know what you think, because I think it's hot. It's a fantastic show, and it's one that you're going to want to see. So it's a good series. By the way, Genevieve is right now in the midst of filming Andor for Disney Plus. It's also part of the Lucas Star Wars group, and so Genevieve is going to be on Andor. So as I said before, she's very busy, very talented actress, and so keep a lookout for that. Put a pin in it. It's going to be a while, but I'm going to say the first quarter of 2022. Check out Andor on on Disney Plus, and we will have Genevieve back before. Okay, all right, folks. Look, thank you so much for joining us today, and for everyone here that helps make Stream On possible. We thank you for listening, and have a wonderful and safe week. Binge on, boys and girls, and let us know what you're watching. Until then, I'm Jim Williams saying so long for the entire team here at Stream On.